Hello, second grade. After I recorded the video for this week, some of your teachers contacted me and asked if there was any way that you guys could work on your fossils for your art this week. And I said, well, funny, we're doing an art review. And part of their art review is that they need to use all of the art elements when they're making a picture. And I'll bet they could do that doing their fossils. So this week, I want you to, once you've reviewed all of the things that I show you in the video, I want you to use them to work on the picture of your fossils again, all right? I do want you to still turn it in art, but I want to see what you do with your fossils when you watch, or after you've watched the art review video. Well, hello everybody. This is going to be another lesson for kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade because this is going to be an art review. So, sit back, relax. We're going to review the art elements, and then at the end, you're going to get to show me a picture that you used all of the art elements in. So, let's look and remind ourselves, what are the art elements? So light helps better. There are 7 elements. First, we start with line. Then we have color. Then there is shape, form, value, and texture. Now, it's been a while since we've looked over and specifically focused on those. We did that right before the fall break. So you've been using these elements in your art, but you might not remember precisely which ones are which. So I found this really cute little activity, and I'm going to show you how we use the art elements when we create a picture. You will have the chance to do your own picture, or you can copy mine, it's okay, but I strongly suggest you watch the whole video before you start to do anything just yet. So, the first thing we're going to do is look at line. So, line. We're going to show line in this picture, and it's just going to be, we've got a horizontal line, we've got a straight line, a vertical line, we've got a diagonal line, we've got like a curly Q, we've got a bumpy line. These are all lines. They're what you make when you start with a dot and you continue it going somewhere. Now, lines are great, and lines are what we need to start our pictures with, but let's see what happens when we create shapes with these lines. So, I'm still going to do a line, but now, what kind of shape do I have down here at the bottom? It's kind of a rectangle shape. Then I'm going to add, and that's supposed to be a square, but it's still kind of rectangular. Then let's do triangle. So this one does not have an exact shape. I don't know if anybody remembers, those are called organic shapes. Geometric shapes are things you can measure, like the rectangle or a square or a triangle. But an organic shape is something, not so much. So now we used shapes. Shapes with lines, and we're getting a picture started. I'm going to add a few more shapes. And we're going to add color. So we've gone through line, shape, and color. But we've got to do some things to add our other elements. We've got to do something to add space. Right now, our tree is on the same place, the same line as our house. So there's not a lot of space being shown in this. There's a way we can change this. And it does require me to draw the whole thing over again, but that's okay. So this time, we're going to we have our tree in the front. Do we know how we show the trees? How do we know the tree is in the front? Because it's so big. Good job. We could draw another tree in the background to let us know that this is the front, this is the closest to us, this is in the middle, and that smaller tree in the background is the background. So that shows us space. But Miss Franz, you're thinking, we've also got to put form and value and texture into this picture. So I am going to have to, using a lot of those elements and those ideas that we had, I'm going to come up with yet a new way to show our picture. We're going to work on form. Form is the 3D version of shape. So I'm going to show you how to draw at least one form, and we're going to think about how we can make some of these other things look like they have form. So the treetop is just going to be a treetop. It's not going to have that much. Then it's going to look 3D when we're done, but I can't draw it with form immediately. That's the kind of the same thing for the background as well, but I can draw the house with some form already. So there's going to be my tree. Again, big because it's in the front, but this time I'm going to draw, there's the front of the house, but we're going to make it come back. So now I'm going to add some form, and I want to make that. So that's going to be the corner of the house. This is going to be the top of the roof. And I'm going to make this roof going parallel. So we don't see that side of the house now, but we do see the top. And that's why I'm glad I didn't do this in a Sharpie. And then we see the side. And now our house has got a form. It looks more 3D. And let's finish our background, and I'll keep my little tree back there as well. So let me put some finishing touches and work on this. And as much as I like the way this looks, it's missing something. Let's fix that. All right, now that's looking better. Now we've got some color back in our picture, but we need to have our last two elements. We need value and texture. So I'm going to use my Sharpie to show you some ways that I can add texture to this picture. Now keep in mind, I'm just using a Sharpie because you need to be able to see through on my camera. You do not have to be using a Sharpie for these. It might be so remember, you do not have to be using a Sharpie for these. So I'm using one because it helps you see off my camera. You don't necessarily have to use one. So first let's look at our tree. I'm going to be drawing some little bumpy lines to make it look more like tree leaves on my tree. Next, for the grass, I'm going to draw some little straight lines, usually about 3 of them together, to make it look more like grass. Now, this is not super complicated or very detailed textures, but it's already making it look more like the thing that it needs to be. Let's add a few more little bumps to this tree in the background, and I'm going to add a knot or a hole in the tree. And because wood isn't exactly even, I'm going to add these little kind of lines, little wavery lines around it, and even these kind of wobbly lines in the back to make it look a little bit more like a tree. And my house isn't going to be perfectly smooth, so I'm going to add some texture to my house. First, for the roof, I'm going to make it look a little bit more like it's got shingles up top, and this is like a wavy pattern. I can even, now at the bottom down here, I went back over and made that a little bit darker, and that's fine. I can actually do kind of the same thing up there. And then for my house itself, I can try and draw just a few bricks. I'm not going to try and draw all of it surrounded in bricks because that would take a very long time, and I'm not going to ask you to do that either. But I can put a few bricks around. Now, this is going to be important. This part of the house is straight. This part is crooked, or it's diagonal. So when I work on these, I'm going to make them diagonal as well. So now I've got something more to show texture in my house, but I'm not done. I'm missing, well, first of all, let's do the cloud. I'm still missing one last element, and that is the element of value. Value is the dark to lightness of a color. This is going to be an especially important thing between this grass and the tree. Because I don't know about the trees and the grass where you live, but the top of my trees and the grass and the ground don't look the same. They're not the same green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a darker green and I'm going to add some detail, some shade to it. So especially near these details, these little textures that we put, I'm coloring, making those darker. I'm going to make it darker on the bottom. Whoops. Oh no. I'm going to make it, there we go, dark along the bottom of my tree top, because the sun is up here and the sun is shining down, so the top is going to be light, but the bottom part close to the ground is going to be kind of dark. And you can already see there's a difference between this and the grass. Let me do that. I'm still going to add a little bit of green, dark green to those, so it makes it still look more detailed. But now my tree is a different kind of green. You can see there's a dark green and there's a light green. I'm going to make some of these pieces of grass dark green. And I'm also going to make it dark green near the path. And I can't forget my other little tree in the background. He gets to have some dark green too. So let's look at the roof. The roof is gray. So I'm going to take dark color and I'm going to go along again, the bottom, and I'm making it darker to make it look like it's the bottom of the shingles. And even though I didn't draw these with a form, they still look like they're showing form because they have a shadow underneath them now. And I'm making that shadow with a dark color. It's kind of a dark grayish. That's like a gray brown. It's kind of odd, but still works. So I've got some value on those. Let's get some value on our tree. You can notice that if I drew some kind of texture, I'm usually putting something near it. Let's do the same thing for the door and the path. Maybe there's a dark spot in the path. Let's do some with brick. Let's find my red crackers. So we're going to make this a little bit more, and this is making it a red value, so this time it stands out a little bit. This actually makes it a little brighter. Everything else we've been doing has been making theirs darker. We're going to try and make this a little bit brighter by adding some red. In fact, I'm going to use a similar technique with the cloud. I'm going to add a little bit of light blue to make it look more like a cloud. So now you see that we have used all of the art elements when we started creating this picture. First, we started with just making lines and figuring out where things were going to go. Then we worked with making the shapes. The shapes being rectangles, in this case, a triangle, squares, an organic shape, another organic shape. Then we added color to it. But I decided that I wanted to also have space, and to have space we needed to have things show up in different sizes. So we have a tree that's very close in the front, we have the house that's in the middle, and we have the other tree in the background. But then we added form. We've added form by doing a few things. In some cases, we added form by giving it texture and value. The value making it look like it's more 3D. In one case, I added form by actually drawing a cube form. Then we added textures again to make things look like they are more realistic to what we're drawing. And we added value, darker or lighter colors to make our picture stand out more. So what you're going to be doing is you are going to be coming up with your own way to show all those. You can copy my picture if you would like to, but you don't have to. You can come up with some way to do it on your own. I look forward to seeing how you can show all of the elements in your picture. All right, guys, I'll see you later. All right, remember second grade, you're going to be doing yours with your fossils. So if you have to go back and find them, if they're in a folder somewhere, look for the fossils that you've been doing with your second grade class and do your assignment this week on the fossils.